A perfect stab pierces through the protagonist. For the 17th time, he feels the cold steel of the blade as his enemy lands a fatal blow. He reflects on this being his 17th death. He wonders if he could have survived had he been more efficient or simply worked harder. As he falls amidst the bodies of the fallen, he questions if his death was inevitable. His consciousness fades into a dark void, where a mysterious voice from a glowing lantern asks if he truly believes he could have survived. The voice taunts him, telling him to struggle and feel the despair of a wall he cannot cross, urging him to give up. As he kneels in the void, a loud clanging noise shatters the silence. The protagonist, Encrid, awakens. His comrade, Rem, is surprised to see him wake up so quickly. Encrid calmly tells Rem there are bugs in his boots. After a moment of confusion, Rem finds a bug, disgustedly crushes it, and accuses Encrid of planting it there. Encrid denies it, stating he merely saw it crawl inside. Internally, Encrid notes this is the 18th time he has witnessed that bug's death. He gazes out the window, wondering if today is the day he can finally break the cycle. He begins his training with a determined cry. A flashback reveals Encrid's past. He learned swordsmanship from a retired mercenary who came to his village. His mentor praised his incredible skill, telling the young Encrid that he could become a knight. Those words planted a dream in his heart. He dreamt of becoming a legendary hero, an invincible knight who could end wars, hailed as the Knight of the End. He saw himself as the protagonist of a grand tale. When he left his village to join a mercenary corps, his comrades mocked him for being a coward, scoffing at his dream of knighthood. Despite the setback, he resolved not to give up. He believed that hard work would never betray him. Believing that effort could overcome a lack of talent, he poured everything into his training. He pushed himself to the limit to defeat any obstacle in his path. Through relentless training, he gained experience, strength, and the acknowledgement of his peers. The growing hope that he could truly become a knight fueled his determination. But that strong hope started to shatter. A gifted child, after only 6 months of training, easily defeated him in a duel, calling him weak. The genius's brief training made a mockery of Encrid's decade of hard work. Defeated, he questioned if his efforts were all in vain. But his desire to become a knight burned as brightly as the stars above. Even as others belittled his hopeless dream, he channeled that resolve into his training. He sacrificed sleep and food, dedicating every moment to his training. He trained relentlessly, swinging his sword day after day. Until one day, screaming with effort, he finally broke through his limits. Exhausted and drenched in sweat, he stood ready to continue. The tree that served as his training partner was covered in the scars of his tireless practice. He gripped his sword, ready for more. He pushed forward, thinking that if he couldn't be a knight, he could at least become an experienced soldier. After 10 long years, his final swing felled the mighty tree. He was part of the Cyprus division. His endless training eventually earned him the position of squad commander of a second-rate squad. He approaches a fellow soldier, Jackson. He asks him to cover his morning duty. Jackson agrees, telling him to repay the favor next time. Rem remarks on Jackson's fierce demeanor. Encrid turns to Rem with a request. He wants to learn the heart of the beast again. Rem is skeptical, questioning why he would try again after giving up last time. The day of the battle arrives. Encrid has lived and died on this battlefield 17 times, remembering every detail of his failures, but he is resolved that today he will survive. He stands ready before the enemy army. As the battle cry sounds, Encrid charges into the fray. He has completely memorized this repeating situation, knowing the placement and actions of every enemy soldier. He anticipates an attack from behind. He also knows that Vel, a member of another squad, is about to be killed. He sees the arrow flying towards its target. Reacting instantly, Encrid shields Vel, blocking the fatal arrow. The soldier is stunned, unsure of what just happened. With his comrade saved, Encrid has completed his first goal for the day. Despite his small victories, he continues to fight through the battlefield. He knows that he will inevitably end up facing the same powerful enemy knight. He stands before the knight who has killed him 20 times. Stealing his resolve, Encrid declares that this time he will survive. He recalls Rem's training, remembering his advice for dangerous situations. Rem's voice echoes in his mind, telling him to keep his eyes open on the battlefield. He must be brave, unshakable, and become a beast who knows nothing of death. Encrid stares down his opponent, contemplating the meaning of the heart of the beast. Is it truly about becoming a creature that doesn't know death? He has come to realize that death is what makes him stronger. With this newfound clarity, he parries the knight's attack. His heart pounds with a new rhythm. For the first time, he senses a change in the battle's flow. On his 21st attempt on this day, something is different. He successfully dodges the knight's deadly stab for the very first time. He moves to counterattack. Despite his breakthrough, his opponent's blade finds its mark once again, piercing his neck. He has failed. Trapped again in the never-ending day, feeling pain and despair, he finds himself before the mysterious boatman. The voice urges him to give up, to acknowledge his weakness and find ease in defeat. Incrid refuses. With a defiant grin, he tells the entity that the day he gives up will never come. He wakes up once more to the sound of clanging pots. Rem's familiar greeting rings out. I am moving forward one step at a time. On his 22nd day, he is ready to challenge his fate again. The battlefield is a maelstrom of clashing steel and fallen soldiers. With weary eyes, he acknowledges that this is the 33rd time he has faced this day. He anticipates the familiar swing of his enemy's blade. He prepares to evade the attack, hoping this time will be different. The enemy knight's sword moves with blinding speed, landing a fatal blow. Frustration and pain contort his face as he realizes his opponent was too fast. A glowing charm slips from his grasp as he falls. He remembers his past as a mercenary, taking on dangerous jobs like monster subjugation. He recalls that he wasn't compelled to help, but simply found a village in need. His actions were driven by his dream to become a knight and uphold their duty to protect the weak. A villager gratefully clasps his hand, explaining that their poor village could offer little in return. The reward for his efforts was a simple charm. The villager told him it was a laughable reward for risking his life, but that it would grant his most desperate prayers. He questions if the charm is making today repeat itself just so he could achieve his dream. The enemy knight tells a wounded soldier that he must be in pain. He raises his sword, declaring that he is offering mercy. The protagonist scoffs at the knight's idea of mercy. He thinks to himself that the knight is just a pervert who enjoys killing. Suddenly, a loud clanging sound echoes, breaking the tension of the battle. Incrid informs Rem that he placed an insect inside his boot, much to Rem's surprise. Rem angrily asks if Incrid has lost his mind, playing tricks so early in the day. Incrid calmly tells him to come out, crushing the insect as he walks. Incrid asks Rem to teach him the heart of the beast. Rem attacks Incrid with a powerful swing. Rem effortlessly catches Incrid's wrist, halting his attack. Rem looks at him with a puzzled expression. Rem questions how Incrid's resolve suddenly strengthened, to which Incrid replies that he trained. Incrid believes this feeling is a sensation he has learned from his repeated deaths. He nonchalantly suggests that perhaps he learned it by chance. Incrid proposes another sparring match. Rem enthusiastically agrees to the challenge. Incrid acknowledges that learning the technique is meaningless if he can't successfully attack. Rem swings his axe, forcing Incrid on the defensive. He taunts Incrid, asking how long he intends to keep dodging. Incrid dodges another attack, considering the only sword technique he knows. It is an unusual technique, created by a mercenary named Valen. Many speak ill of it, calling it nothing more than a cheap trick. As he attacks, Rem points out the weakness in Incrid's lower body strength. Still, Incrid knows this technique is the best he has. He plants his feet and prepares to use it. Rem is caught off guard by Incrid's maneuver. Incrid rushes forward, executing a swift attack. His sword is knocked into the air during the exchange. Incrid holds up a hand, asking to stop for a moment. He reveals that he was imitating the stab of the knight from the battlefield. Because he has died to it over 10 times, his body has memorized the motion. Rem comments that it should have drawn blood. Rem praises the stab as the most decent move Incrid has shown, but adds that it needs more impact. Rem explains that Incrid's hand should have bled from the force of the attack. He tells Incrid that he is too doubtful of himself. Incrid worries that his attack can't fail and what he should do if it gets blocked. Rem tells him he needs to attack with the mindset that he can't be dodged and his opponent is dead meat. Despite the crude explanation, Incrid understands the core of the lesson. He now sees the difference between his stab and that of his enemy. He realizes that he did not have enough confidence in his own swordsmanship. The enemy knight's blade hovers over him, ready to strike. Incrid understands now that he must attack with the intent to kill. Incrid lets out a powerful battle cry. He unleashes his attack with newfound resolve. He thinks of his enemy's words, ready to deliver his own form of mercy. He resolves not to hesitate any longer. He will continue to advance, no matter how small the progress. On the 11th day, he is killed again. On the 123rd day, the result is the same. Each death is delivered with the same cruel words of mercy. At last, the 124th day arrives. His scream of effort signals a change. His attack lands, knocking Rem to the ground. Rem looks up, stunned by the successful strike. Incrid stands firm, the force of his attack evident. Rem looks at Incrid and asks if he is crazy. Blood drips from Incrid's hand, which is raw from gripping the sword. Rem questions why he is laughing like a madman when his hands are so injured. A triumphant grin is plastered on Incrid's face. He has mastered that perverted bastard's stab. He faces a relentless knight, their blades clashing in a desperate struggle for survival. A warrior pushes himself to be faster, to fight with pure murderous intent. The warrior's first attempt at a decisive stab ends in failure. Though wounded, his resolve doesn't waver. He refuses to blink or let go of his sword. As he lies defeated, the enemy knight looms over him, remarking on his suffering. The knight offers his twisted version of mercy, speaking of tomorrow. But the warrior, lying on the brink of death, defiantly tells the knight that he is the one who will die. With a final surge of strength, he thrusts his sword forward, declaring that the dead have no tomorrow. He dismisses a comrade's offer to take his guard duty. In the barracks, the squad commander's behavior is unusual. He begins gathering specific gear, shin armor, a shield, and a dagger. His squad mates watch, confused by his sudden pushiness and resolve. The squad gossips about the commander's strange intensity, noting he's not usually like this. Unseen, the commander practices his swordplay, his mind completely focused on the battle to come. He reflects on the agonizing pain of dying repeatedly. He questions if he can ever truly win or escape this endless day. He considers settling for just being stronger, but quickly dismisses the thought. He must surpass this limit. He visualizes his foe as a massive wall blocking his path. Through countless deaths, he has learned the perfect stab. He vows he will not abandon this chance to break through. He embraces his curse as a blessing, a chance to prepare. Fully equipped with his new armor and shield, he is filled with determination. He knows he has no choice but to keep moving forward. The day of the battle arrives. The commander leads his squad into the fray. They charge into a sea of enemy soldiers. The commander knows he survived his past lives through preparation, luck, and scraps of knowledge. He recalls specific deaths, a shattered shoulder on the 46th day, a crushed head on the 47th. Each memory is a lesson, teaching him how to counter a mace-wielding foe. He also learned how to deal with the soldier who aims for his feet. He puts his knowledge into practice, blocking the low slash that crippled him on the 71st day. He remembers an axe thrower who killed him on the 89th day, and concludes that this time, the man cannot be left alive to interfere. Amidst the chaos, a familiar axe flies toward him. He blocks it with his shield, identifying the sharpshooter known as Claw of the Hawk. Knowing he can't deal with him yet, he continues to cut down the enemies directly in his path. He carves a path through the battlefield. It is time to face the wall. The knight's eye glows with a cold blue light. The commander's eye burns with red resolve. The two warriors leap at each other. Their blades clash. The commander's sword shatters. He knows that simply dodging and stabbing won't be enough this time. He needs a new approach. The knight is surprised by the commander's strength, thinking he's almost at the level of a prodigy. The commander's charge was a feint. Instead of stabbing, he blocks. He then slams his head into the knight's helmet. He follows up with a powerful body blow that dents the armor. The crude mercenary techniques are proving effective. The brutal, close-quarters fight continues. The knight swings his massive blade. But the commander stands his ground, undeterred by the overwhelming power. After facing the same attack countless times, the commander now understands everything about the knight's signature stab. Standing on the shards of his own broken sword, he is ready. He makes his move, grabbing the knight's sword arm. He shatters the blade with his gauntlet. In the same motion, he drives his own broken sword through a gap in the knight's armor. As the knight falls, an archer takes aim. The commander reaches out to catch the knight's greatsword as it drops. He now wields the weapon of his nemesis. With a cry of victory, he hurls the massive sword like a spear. He then throws his shield. The sword impales the distant archer. The shield decapitates another foe. His squad mates arrive ready to fight. They find the commander standing over the body of the knight, whom he has already slain. They stare in stunned silence. He catches his breath as the exhaustion of the fight finally sets in. The battle is won. The commander stands over his defeated foe. Looking down at the corpse, he echoes the knight's old words, declaring it as mercy. Tossing the helmet aside, he feels a profound sense of release. He has finally broken through the wall. But just as victory seems certain, he is struck by an unseen force. He is sent flying across the field. He cries out in pain. His comrades watch in horror. A new, powerful figure emerges from the enemy ranks. The new enemy is revealed to be a massive, humanoid frog warrior. The battle begins anew. A powerful warrior with amphibian features stands over the battlefield. He expresses disbelief that his champion was defeated by the exhausted soldier on the ground, lamenting the investment he made. The soldier grits his teeth in defiance, breathing heavily. The frog-like warrior decides to end the victor's life himself and lunges forward with a deadly cry. The two warriors' weapons meet with incredible force. They clash in a flurry of sparks and steel. The soldier grits his teeth, putting his all into the struggle. The frog-like warrior remains composed, pressing his attack. The frog warrior's movements are a whirlwind of deadly grace as he cuts through the ranks. A soldier cries out as he attempts to fend off the attack. The soldier is swiftly cut down. The agile warrior continues his rampage across the battlefield. A large, axe-wielding soldier intervenes, declaring that permission is needed to harm his squad commander. The frog warrior is surprised, questioning if the weakened commander is truly the leader. The axe-wielder identifies his opponent as one of the frog, a warrior race born to fight. The frog warrior wonders why such a powerful being is on a trivial battlefield, resolving that he must be killed. The axe-wielder steels himself, realizing he'll have to put his life on the line to win this difficult battle. The frog warrior suddenly decides the battle is not worth the effort and turns to leave. He leaps away from the battlefield. The axe-wielding soldier scoffs, calling him a coward. Undeterred by the insult, he charges after the retreating frog warrior. The axe-wielding warrior leaps into the remaining enemy soldiers. He cuts a swath through their ranks with his weapon. His powerful swings continue the assault. His squadmates stand by, exhausted but victorious. The commander watches the enemy go, his expression grim and weary. The enemy forces are ordered to retreat. As the enemy flees, the commander finally succumbs to his injuries and exhaustion, collapsing to the ground. A voice tells him that while he managed to survive the day, that is the extent of his accomplishment. A mysterious hooded figure tells him he cannot withstand the walls that will block his path. The figure declares that the commander's fate is to despair and give up. The commander lies defeated on the ground. However, he begins to push himself up. He declares that for him, walls exist for a different reason. With newfound resolve, the commander declares that walls exist to be overcome. The mysterious figure says he will eagerly await the moment the ambition in the commander's eyes loses its light. The commander awakens, heavily bandaged. He looks around at his surroundings. He recognizes the location as the infirmary tent. The axe-wielding warrior, Rem, informs the commander that he's been asleep for 2 days straight. Rem reminds the commander that he saved him from the frog warrior. The commander, in pain, is amazed he survived the encounter. Rem checks on his injuries and teases him, asking if he remembers his best friend. The commander curtly denies they were ever friends. Annoyed, Rem shoves him back down onto the bed. The commander questions Rem's claim of friendship. He reflects on making it out alive and seeing a new day beyond today. Another squad member complains about the expense of getting the commander into the infirmary and demands to be paid back 3 times the amount. The commander now understands how a regular soldier like him ended up in the infirmary. He notes that Kryes was, as usual, nowhere to be seen during the battle. Kryes then cheekily offers a special discount, saying he only has to pay back double. Another squad member, Jackson, enters the tent. The commander asks what he wants. Without a word, Jackson places a container of ointment on the bed. He tells the commander to apply it twice a day and not to ask where he got it. The commander recognizes it as Jackson's personal ointment and wonders why he would share it. Elsewhere in the tent, another squad member, Odin, whimpers in his sleep. The commander tells the sleeping Odin to go, reassuring him that he's not dead. Night falls over the camp. He wonders why his squad mates are taking shifts to watch over him. He questions if they are actually worried about him. A new visitor enters the tent. The commander is surprised by the visitor. The visitor, Ragnar, is surprised to see the commander in the infirmary. The commander dismisses the idea that Ragnar could be worried, thinking the man doesn't care one bit. He takes stock of the other two soldiers in the infirmary tent. One is a platoon commander from another company who used to pick fights with him. The other is an unknown soldier who just stares blankly into space. He wonders how a low-ranking soldier ended up in the infirmary. The unknown soldier suddenly gets up. The figure approaches the commander's bed. A close-up reveals her pointed, elven ear. Her unique sword is visible at her hip. It is revealed to be a tall, female elf warrior, fully armored, who stands over the commander with a serious expression. The elf warrior looks down and asks who is the commander of the 444th Squad. The commander looks up, confused by her question. A soldier named Vengeance is startled by the appearance of an elf warrior. When she asks for his unit, he identifies himself as a platoon commander. The elf sternly questions if his company teaches him to state his race to a superior. A flustered Vengeance apologizes. Another soldier, the squad commander, recognizes the elf as the new commander of the 4th Company. The elf commander introduces herself as Incrid to the squad commander. She acknowledges his leadership and states her expectations for his future contributions. As she leaves, another soldier stops her. He awkwardly introduces himself as Krang. The squad commander observes the interaction, thinking Krang's attitude is improper for someone addressing a company commander. After Incrid departs, the squad commander watches her go. Later that night, feeling his strength returning, he clenches his fist. He decides it's time to resume his training. As he prepares to leave, another soldier asks where he is going, and he replies that he is heading to the training area. The other soldier calls him an idiot for acting tough when he's the lowest-ranking soldier. He heads to the training area to mentally replay his last battle, a useful technique he learned when he was young. He focuses on his final attack, wondering what would have happened if that last-ditch effort had failed. He concludes that if his single attack had failed, he would have died. His thoughts are interrupted by a voice remarking on his hard work. It's Krang, who mentions seeing his hands twitching in the barracks and now finding him spacing out. The squad commander explains he was training his grip and is now replicating the battle in his mind. Krang asks why he is training so hard, and the commander replies bluntly that it is to avoid getting killed. Krang then asks if he has a goal he wants to achieve by staying alive. This prompts the commander to think about his dream. It's a dream he has never stopped desiring to accomplish. The commander reveals his ultimate goal, to become a knight. Krang seems surprised, noting that it is the first time he has seen someone who did not laugh at him. Krang suddenly remembers something. He tells the commander that watching him has helped him understand what he needs to do, and he begins to leave. The commander reflects on this being the first time he has ever felt supported. Krang turns back, calling him a friend, and asking him to remember his name once he becomes a knight. The next morning, a minstrel sings of a hero named Cypress. Soldiers complain about late rations. The commander decides to take a walk, and a squadmate asks about his injuries. He thanks his squadmate, telling him the medicine worked well. That night he wishes Incrid good night before settling in to sleep. He reflects on it being a day where he accomplished nothing. The commander awakens to the same minstrel singing about Cyprus. The same soldier is complaining about the rations again. A chilling realization hits him, everything is repeating. This is confirmed when his squadmate approaches and asks the exact same question about his injuries as the day before. He gives the same responses as before, confirming his suspicion that the day has reset. He recalls the mysterious figure's warning that another wall would stop him. The figure had told him to try to survive. He starts to wonder if he died in his sleep without realizing it. Rather than despairing, the realization that he is trapped in a time loop makes him more determined, viewing it as another challenge to overcome. Lying awake, he tries to deduce how he was killed, reasoning that only a knight could bypass the camp's defenses. Since that seems improbable, he concludes that a hidden assassin must be among them. His suspicion immediately falls upon Encrid, someone skilled in assassination. He considers that a fairy's nimble and quiet nature is perfect for assassination, and he recalls her scouting the camp's layout. He resolves to confirm his theory, knowing there is only one entrance to the medical barracks. He lies in wait, planning to shout for help the moment he sees the assassin. Suddenly, a thin object darts towards his neck. He realizes too late that he has been struck by a poisonous needle. He writhes in agony as the poison takes effect. He collapses, unable to move his body or speak. He now understands that a potent numbing poison is why he died without knowing the cause. He sees that the others in the tent, including Vengeance, have also been hit. A hooded figure stands over Krang's bed. Paralyzed, the commander recognizes the assassin. The hooded figure raises a dagger. The assassin plunges the blade into Krang. Krang's eyes go wide with shock and pain. The commander watches in helpless fury. As the first assassin pulls their blade free, a second figure appears behind them. To the commander's astonishment, he realizes there is another assassin in the room. The second figure, whose arm is covered in vine-like markings, grabs the first assassin's wrist. The movement pulls back the hood. It reveals the face of company leader Encrid, confirming the commander's suspicion. A minstrel's song about the hero Cypress rings out. A man sits in his tent, trapped in the same morning for the third time. He was on alert but couldn't even detect the assassin's presence, realizing this will not be easy. On top of that, he knows he'll have to face the company commander after dealing with the assassins. He feels helpless. He remembers feeling this same way a few days prior. Despite being the victor in a past battle, he feels he was the one who was wrong. Nevertheless, he strengthens his resolve, determined to find a way forward as long as he does not give up. The commander jolts awake. He rips the blanket off a sleeping Krang, who demands to know what is wrong with him. The commander, having assumed the assassins had already infiltrated, realizes he needs to be wary of the outside. Krang sarcastically asks if his training involves catching cockroaches with a sword, calling him a lowlife soldier. The commander retorts with his own sarcasm, saying he did not know Krang cared so much. Krang yells for him to screw off, not wanting to even see his face. Their argument is interrupted by a man with long, light blue hair. The man, Encrid, asks if he should come back later. The commander invites him in, dismissing Krang as an annoying bastard. He watches Encrid, certain that the man is the assassin's target due to their keen observation of him. He finds Encrid suspicious, wondering about his identity. However, he decides not to pry into something the man is not willing to share. The commander feels that because of Encrid, he became involved in the assassination, so a little probing should be acceptable. He bluntly asks Encrid, "What are you?" Encrid is taken aback by the question. The commander internally questions his own phrasing, wondering if his conversational skills are as bad as Rem's. Encrid repeats the question back at him. The commander tells Encrid that it is not something he can say. When Encrid asks why, he simply says it is a long story. While Encrid seems to accept this, the commander is surprised. Krang erupts in anger, yelling at Encrid for accepting such a non-answer. He then accuses the commander of being a spy from another country due to his poor manners. Krang recoils in surprise. Encrid steps calmly between Krang and the commander. He firmly states that he has not and will not betray the kingdom. The commander watches him closely, analyzing his eyes and movements for any sign of deception. He senses an aura from Encrid, one befitting a knight. Krang, still agitated, is silenced when Encrid tells him to address him as Sir. The commander internally dismisses the idea of Krang being a knight, remembering his powerlessness against the assassins. However, he is convinced Encrid is hiding something. Later, Encrid wishes him good night. Encrid wishes him good night as well. Lying in bed, the commander wonders if Krang's unusual quietness is due to fear from their earlier confrontation. He knows that if the assassins attack the tent, they will all die. He gets up and moves to the entrance. He is questioned by a now-awake Krang. The commander warns him that assassins are coming and that he should cooperate to survive. Krang is silent. He dismisses the warning, telling the commander he must have lost his mind before rolling over. As the commander anticipates this reaction, he is suddenly shocked, wondering how the unseen enemy noticed him. An instant later, a dart strikes him down. The commander is hit, questioning when the attack even happened. The assassins move with blinding speed, killing Krang. Encrid is killed as well. As he lies dying, the Song of Cypress fills the air once more, signaling the reset of the loop and his failure to avenge his comrades. Back at the beginning of the loop, the commander considers informing his superiors to get reinforcements. However, a fellow soldier threatens to shut him up permanently. He then devises a new plan, to predict the exact moment of the attack and scream a warning. He waits, listening intently for any sign. He shouts a warning about the assassins, but a poison needle strikes his neck mid-word. He realizes they are simply too fast. He realizes there is no way to get help from others. He must ambush and defeat them himself before they can strike. The ambush fails again, and he questions how he can fight an enemy he cannot even see. While he is blind to their movements, they can see everything. He knows that as long as he cannot avoid their poison needle, he will die helplessly. The world resets, and the Song of Cypress plays again. It is the 20th morning, and he could not do anything at all. He has failed for the 20th time in a row. The weight of his repeated failures presses down on him. He steels himself, thinking that he has only died 20 times. His priority is to find a way to avoid the poison needle, and then he will figure out how to deal with them. He needs a way to avoid their attacks faster than they can see. His eyes land on a soldier named Jackson, and an idea begins to form. A large soldier asks why Jackson is called a perverted wild cat. The commander explains that it is because Jackson is a dirty pervert. He elaborates that Jackson never fights head-on, preferring to backstab his enemies and flee. Jackson overhears the conversation and addresses the commander. Jackson asks if the commander's injuries are okay. The commander believes Jackson could easily defeat the assassins, but knows he lacks the authority to order him. More importantly, he feels this is a challenge he must overcome himself. Having made a decision, he calls out Jackson's name. The commander declares his new strategy: he will become Jackson. He approaches the master ambusher and asks him a hypothetical question. If someone like Jackson were to try and stab him in the back, what would he need to do to stop it? Jackson pauses to consider the question. Jackson thoughtfully replies that he is not sure, as no one has ever survived one of his ambushes before. The commander asks Jackson what he would need to do to stop an ambush. Jackson thoughtfully replies that he is not sure, as no one has ever survived one of his ambushes before. The commander listens, his expression hardening with resolve as Jackson's words sink in. Jackson elaborates that one would need eyes on the back of their head. The commander is confused by this, wondering what he means. Jackson then points out a wagon in the distance, noting that the timing is perfect. The commander is astonished, wondering if Jackson truly has eyes on the back of his head. Jackson predicts that the distant wagon is about to fall apart. Just as he says it, the wagon collapses. Utterly shocked, the commander asks if Jackson is a prophet, but Jackson explains that he has been spending too much time with a barbarian. Jackson clarifies that his knowledge came from sound. He explains that he simply heard the creaking from the wagon's axle. Jackson explains that if you can hear what is around you, you can predict what will happen next. He advises the commander that he does not need to see to sense his surroundings. Jackson tells him to practice honing his senses and isolating sounds. The commander comments that it was a nice explanation, noting that Jackson seemed too lazy to respond earlier. Jackson admits he is lazy, but says this is better than being followed. The commander observes that Jackson seems determined not to give up on him. The commander lies down, recalling his previous demise. He remembers the faceless death that claimed him. He realizes that he can survive if he can just sense his attackers. He closes his eyes and focuses, trying to parse the sounds around him, picking up the patrol's footsteps and the sound of torches. He searches for his enemy, asking himself where they are. A cloaked assassin lurks nearby. He wonders where the bastard's sound is. Despite his efforts, a poison needle strikes him in the neck. He failed. As he sits up in his tent, he remembers the hero of the battlefield, Cypress. The memory of his death is still fresh, his body remembering everything clearly. The memory of the stab remains vivid. In his mind, Jackson's voice continues the lesson, explaining that one can gain a lot of information from sound alone, such as location based on intensity and direction. Once you can hear faint sounds, your ears can effectively become a second pair of eyes. He explains that sound is a wave that rings out in the chaos of thousands of sound waves mixed together. Jackson's voice concludes that in the chaos, one must isolate a single wave. The commander puts this into practice, sitting amidst the camp's clamor. He closes his eyes and begins to listen, categorize, and isolate the entangled sound waves. He focuses on the flapping flags, trying to discern how many there were. Then he focuses on the footsteps, distinguishing 3 close and 2 far away. He continues to feel the waves, separating familiar sounds. He also picks up unfamiliar sounds, like the flapping of a bird's wings. His concentration is broken. A voice asks what kind of training he is doing. He opens his eyes and recognizes the man as Incrid. Incrid asks if he is Incrid's fine, but the commander seems to brush it off. The commander feels like he is just sitting there like an idiot and wonders if this even looks like training. Incrid replies that he is not an idiot who wastes time. Suddenly, the commander's eyes snap open. The memory of being struck by a poisoned needle flashes through his mind. The memory is agonizingly clear, the needle piercing his neck, the assassin striking down Incrid. The blade reflects the sky before it descends. Incrid cries out in pain. The commander looks on, helpless, marking it as the 33rd failure of the day. The 34th day begins. The assassin moves again, and once more the commander hears nothing. Another failure, he lies on the ground, defeated. The loop resets and he sits again, listening to the sounds of the camp. He becomes accustomed to the unending repetition. After so many failures, a sudden realization dawns on him. He realizes he just needs to repeatedly do what he has been doing. He now understands what he needs to do. He senses the light touch of a bird's feet landing and the silent approach of the assassin. As Incrid walks up to him, the commander turns his head, his eyes now open and aware. Incrid is surprised, admitting he tried to sneak up and asking how the commander knew he was there. He notes the commander's closed eyes and correctly guesses he is training his perception. The commander's eyes flash with determination as he recalls the assassin's attack. He now fully perceives the attack. In his mind's eye, the scene plays out. This time, as the poisoned needle flies towards his neck, he is able to react, dodging the fatal blow. He moves to counter the unseen foe. The commander successfully evades the attack, landing in a ready stance before his attacker. The assassin grits his teeth in disbelief. With a grim smile, the commander holds a blade to the assassin's throat. He declares that the assassin is no longer faceless death. The commander stands over his defeated foe, declaring that the hooded man is no longer the fearsome assassin known as Faceless Death. The commander states that he can handle the assassin. He then instructs his companion to take care of the others. He reflects that vengeance for Krang is already complete. However, he knows he cannot let his guard down. He acknowledges that his opponent is still an experienced assassin. The assassin suddenly lashes out, managing to wound the commander's face. As the fight rages on, the commander's thoughts turn to the ferry company commander. The commander realizes that if he doesn't stab first, he will die. A new hooded figure suddenly attacks him. The assassin is shocked by the intervention, questioning if the commander had a guard. The commander finds himself in a fierce clash with this unexpected assailant, blocking a powerful downward strike. Confused, the commander wonders why this person, who he thought was with the assassin, is now protecting them. Taking advantage of the chaotic situation, the commander lands a powerful blow on the original assassin. The assassin grunts in pain from the strike. The assassin flees into the night. The silver-haired man states that he knew the assassin was probably going for him. The commander questions who would pay an assassin for vengeance or to kill someone like him, and his companion confirms his suspicion. An elf-like woman suddenly appears, complimenting the commander on his speed. The commander realizes she was an ally until now and cannot let her identity be known. He understands that she intends to leave no witnesses. Before she can act, he interrupts, stating he has a favor to ask. The silver-haired man asks that no one dies today. The elf woman bows and agrees to his wish. He then inquires about the platoon commander, and she assures him the man will be fine since they have the antidote. With the immediate danger past, the man decides they need to clean up the mess. The commander asks if it is fine as long as there are no traces left. The silver-haired man replies that there is an easy way. Suddenly, the medical tent erupts in blue flames. Soldiers shout in alarm about the fire in the medical tent. They soon discover 2 survivors amidst the chaos. The commander coughs, thinking that the fire has successfully removed all traces of the assassin. As the elf woman and the silver-haired man walk through a forest, she tells him he would have died if the squad leader hadn't slowed the assassin. She asks if he changed his mind because of the commander, and he admits that he did, finding the man interesting. He then trails off, admitting he has been trying to avoid something. The silver-haired man muses that someone named Ensai must have rubbed off on him. He and the elf woman then part ways, agreeing that they should meet again in their respective roles. In a dark, ethereal space, a voice tells him he will see someone again. The commander reflects on surviving against the assassin known as Silent Death and waking up to the next day's morning. He notes that while he can sense most things, he was unable to sense the ferry and realizes he has a lot to do now that he is back. A fellow soldier approaches, asking if the commander saved him from the fire. The soldier questions why the commander would save him. The commander wonders why the man dislikes him so much. He simply replies that they are comrades and that no other reason is needed. The soldier is taken aback, muttering that the commander is a selfless bastard as he walks away. The soldier asks if the commander is returning to his squad. He warns him that he is out of luck, as the vibe there is trash. He mentions a rumor circulating that the entire base is cursed. At that moment, a fight breaks out between two other soldiers. Onlookers comment that the crazy squad is fighting again, attributing their behavior to their squad leader's absence. The brawl intensifies, drawing a crowd. One of the fighters threatens to decorate the other's skull with his axe. His opponent vows to split the barbarian in half. As the situation escalates, the commander watches, thinking that he doesn't know about the base being cursed. The commander wryly muses that these squad members might as well be his curse. He then steps in and firmly tells the rascals to stop. His men are stunned to see their squad leader, whom they thought was dead. He tells them he didn't go crazy because he was worried about them. Under a starry sky, a man who feels he has lived for a long time awakens in his bed. He opens his eyes to find a long-haired comrade standing over him. The comrade, who was trying to leave quietly, asks if he woke him. The man replies that he was going to get up and train regardless. The long-haired man compliments his comrade's progress in listening, and the man replies that he has been practicing. He is encouraged to keep it up, as it will surely help him in the future. With renewed determination, he heads outside to train. He knows he must make use of all his extra time to train. While training with a large rock, a voice greets him as brother squad leader. He looks up from his training. He sees a muscular man named Odin, who is also returning from his own intense morning workout, carrying a massive boulder. Odin praises his dedication, remarking that a well-trained body is a weapon in itself. He tells the squad leader he should train until he can withstand a kick from a frog. He tells the squad leader that he is still too thin and must keep training. Internally, the squad leader notes Odin's excessive size but agrees to try his best. Odin demonstrates a training technique he taught the squad leader, commenting that it is getting easier for him. The squad leader attempts to follow suit but stumbles and falls. He pushes himself up, looking puzzled. A fight breaks out between two other soldiers. A calmer man intervenes, telling them to give it a rest as violence solves nothing. One of the brawlers complains that his opponent, Ragnar, is so directionally challenged he will starve them all. The peacemaker instructs Ragnar to start cooking if it is his turn for duty, and Ragnar complies. The bearded soldier continues to needle Ragnar. Ragnar shoves him away, complaining about the smell. The squad leader intervenes, telling the bearded man to stop picking fights out of boredom. The man admits the lack of battles is making him restless. Seeing this, the squad leader tells him not to take it out on others and challenges him to a duel. The duel begins fiercely. The bearded warrior lands a blow, yelling that the squad leader needs to learn how to take a hit. The squad leader is struck hard. He grits his teeth, reminding himself to maintain his composure with the heart of a beast. He focuses, using his heightened hearing to anticipate and block his opponent's strikes. This is a skill he has honed through countless deaths and rebirths. He executes a perfect stabbing motion, a technique he has practiced to perfection. The blade finds its mark and his opponent is struck down. The squad leader feels the strain of the battle. His opponent, now defeated, complains that he was expecting more, given his recent improvements. He asks what made the squad leader so boring all of a sudden, tired of the same attack. Leaning on his sword for support, the squad leader reflects inwardly. He knows now that he is different than he was before. The squad leader realizes he can repeat anything hundreds of thousands of times to move forward and challenges his opponent to another round. The bearded man internally notes that while the squad leader's skills are lacking, he cannot get tired of the look in his eyes. He accepts the challenge, telling him he can talk big after he actually lands a solid hit. As they prepare, rain begins to fall. The sudden downpour interrupts their duel. Inside a tent, the men take shelter. The bearded man complains about the dampness. Another soldier with spiky blue hair gripes about how many duels have been cancelled due to the rain. He is starting to believe they might be cursed. The spiky-haired soldier asks the squad leader if he has heard the rumors about a curse. He recounts a series of unfortunate events, increasingly strange weather, supplies catching fire, and a rash of injuries in other squads. He admits that while they probably are not actually cursed, the temperamental weather adds fuel to the rumors. The squad leader listens, thinking that the higher-ups will not let this situation go unnoticed. The spiky-haired soldier questions why the squad leader is standing in the entrance, and he explains he is training his senses. He clarifies he is training precisely because of the downpour. While one soldier scoffs, the long-haired man praises the training method. The squad leader remains silent as another soldier yells at him. Elsewhere in the tent, a muscular man offers to help a comrade with his stance. The long-haired man observes that everyone seems to have noticed something is amiss. The bearded soldier asks what everyone has noticed. Elsewhere, company commanders are in a meeting. They discuss the need to send out a scouting party before winter returns. An elf-like commander proposes the leader of the 444th Squad. Another commander objects, dismissing the 444th leader as useless and dumb, fearing he would hold the scouts back. The elf commander disagrees, suggesting he could bring about unexpected results. When pressed for a reason, she simply replies that it is a fairy's instinct. The following day, the sun shines over the encampment. The squad leader is summoned before the elf commander. He is surprised to learn that he is being assigned to the scouts. The elf commander looks on with a steady, unreadable gaze. In a sunlit port filled with grand ships, the scene shifts to a dimly lit room. A dark-haired man stands before an elven woman, a single thought forming in his mind. The man questions his new assignment in disbelief, wondering if he is truly being sent to the scouts. The elven commander simply stares back at him with an unreadable expression. Back in his quarters, a comrade asks if he did something to anger the company commander. The squad leader wonders what he could have done, but his friend insists there must be a reason she specifically chose him. The squad leader considers the elven commander's motives, reassuring himself that she does not intend to kill him. He ponders her intentions now that someone named Krang has left. A large, bearded comrade asks the squad leader if he is really going through with the assignment. He offers to help him get out of it, brandishing a large axe. The squad leader refuses, saying he cannot attack a superior. His comrade jokes that he would not suggest such a thing, but the squad leader warns him against it. Suddenly, other squad members plead with the bearded man, whom they call father, not to take their leader away, leaving the squad leader perplexed. Another one of his men, a man with blonde and braided hair, stands up. He volunteers to go in the squad leader's place. The bearded man dismisses the offer, stating that while others might do, Ragnar is different. Another comrade asks if it is true that the mission is to scout the tall grass fields. One man advises the squad leader on how to overcome an ambush by listening for changes in the grass. The bearded man angrily tells him to stop teaching such things. The squad leader reflects that once he is gone, no one will stop their fighting, and he questions if leaving them is the right thing to do. He concedes that there is nobody better suited for the task than him. He recalls how, after enlisting, his lackluster skills led to him being constantly transferred to fill in for others. He reflects on the one place he ended up being useful. A memory flashes of the bearded man swinging his axe in anger. His long-haired rival dodges the attack. Their eyes lock in the heat of combat. The squad leader recalls their constant, intense sparring matches. His usefulness came as the leader of a squad of leftovers. Bringing himself back to the present, he firmly tells his bickering men to give it a rest. The bearded man questions if the squad leader is brave or just stupid. The long-haired man retorts that he should be thanking him, as he saved him from injury. As they argue, the squad leader thinks about how skilled his men are and how his own loss would be insignificant in comparison. He decides there is no need for contemplation. He knows exactly where he stands in terms of skill. He resolves that he just needs to improve. As his new unit travels, he views the mission as an opportunity to go to the front lines and train his senses. The scout squad leader, Andrew Gardner, confronts him, telling the leftover squad leader to focus. He asserts his authority, declaring that while their ranks are the same, he is in charge and challenges him to a fight if he has a problem. Andrew's men mock the protagonist, doubting he has the nerve to fight their leader. Andrew smirks, saying he will try not to hurt the useless bastard whose squad he claims only functions because of its members. Andrew gives a loud, aggressive speech, ordering his men to bash in the skulls of any enemy they find. The protagonist silently questions their understanding of a scouting mission and worries about the inexperienced leader's competence. One of the scouts calls out to his boss, having discovered tracks on the ground. The group gathers to inspect them and identifies them as new tracks. Andrew excitedly suggests they follow the tracks to have a barbecue. The protagonist is alarmed, knowing that news travel in groups of at least 20, and wonders what is going through his leader's head to suggest fighting them. Another scout, Henry, scoffs at the idea, pointing out that the tracks are from a gazelle, not a gnu. He then remarks to the protagonist that their squad leader is quite obnoxious. The protagonist recalls his growing friendship with Henry, a former hunter who disliked their squad leader. Henry had shared useful knowledge about the basics of hunting, like spotting animal paths, and promised to teach him more. After a whole day was wasted searching for non-existent news, a frustrated scout mutters to himself. During his night watch, he insists that the tracks were real. Andrew, agitated and desperate, mutters that he needs results of any kind. The next morning arrives, bringing a new day for the mission. The squad makes their way through the wilderness. They finally reach their destination. They have arrived at the location they were supposed to reconnoiter, which Andrew derisively calls the uselessly tall grass field. Andrew rallies his men, declaring their plan: cross the grass field, find the hostile scouting party, and capture them to be rewarded. As they prepare to enter the tall grass, Henry expresses his doubts about going in. The protagonist simply states that it is the squad leader's command. The group proceeds into the dense foliage. Andrew had expected him to give up quickly in the difficult terrain. He finds it unexpected that the protagonist is taking the mission seriously, without complaint. The protagonist points out the lack of animal droppings. He explains that this means there are no animals in an area that should have plenty of food for them, which worries Henry. A large clawed foot steps into view from the tall grass, its presence confirming their fears. Alerted by a sudden movement, the protagonist turns his head, a fearsome creature reflected in his gaze. His eyes widen as he sees the glowing eyes of a beast in the grass. He screams a warning for everyone to get down. An arrow flies out from the grass, fatally striking a scout in the neck as his comrades watch in horror. Andrew screams in terror that it is the enemy. From the tall grass, a group of cloaked and helmeted soldiers emerges, crossbows aimed. The command to run is shouted as chaos erupts. The scouting party is ambushed and begins to fall. The scouts are overwhelmed and cut down by the surprise attack from the enemy forces. The protagonist watches helplessly as his comrades, including Henry, are slaughtered. The field is left strewn with the bodies of the fallen scout squad. A lone figure tumbles through a field of tall, golden grass, the scene shifting to a deep blue as he continues to fall. Relying on a listening technique, a man with dark hair prepares for an incoming attack. He reflects that the listening technique he learned from Jackson is certainly useful. Despite its usefulness, he is still overwhelmed and killed. The overwhelming noise makes it impossible for him to pinpoint the danger. He concludes that the technique is merely helpful, not foolproof. He finds himself surrounded by a storm of incoming arrows. The attack is overwhelming, and he is fatally wounded. Knowing an ambush is inevitable, he thinks it's logical to try and avoid it. His warning is met with aggression from his squad leader, who threatens him. Realizing they won't listen, he wonders if he must find a way out by himself. Cries of an ambush ring out as the squad is attacked. He recalls trying a different path, only to be intercepted and killed again. He reassures himself that with the ability to repeat the day, he can always find a new solution. He remembers being caught by 20 crossbowmen from the east and dying, riddled with arrows. When he tried moving north to avoid them, he was instead met by a squad of spearmen. While hiding, he hears the enemy searching nearby and realizes they won't stop pursuing him. He notes their green-dyed uniforms, concluding they were well prepared for this ambush. He wonders what could possibly be in this field that requires such a heavily prepared force to guard it. He watches in horror as an enemy soldier ruthlessly executes a fallen squad mate. He internally curses the enemy, identifying them as aspen bastards. His primary question becomes what they are so desperately trying to hide. The squad leader, Andrew, rallies his men with a plan to cross the field and capture the enemy for a reward. The protagonist internally notes that they have attempted this dozens of times, always resulting in their deaths. He is determined to find out what the Aspen forces are hiding. He contemplates that giving up on this objective means he would not have to die, potentially ending the repeating day. However, he resolves not to run from this seemingly insurmountable wall. One of the scouts aggressively questions why the useless squad leader is waiting. Another soldier tries to mediate, asking him to just go along with it, but the protagonist coldly asks why he should. He snaps, saying there is a limit to the nonsense he can take from an idiot. He shakes off a fellow soldier, announcing that he is done playing this game. Andrew confronts him, asking if he is disobeying orders. He decides he needs to fundamentally reframe the situation. He acknowledges that outright disobedience is not a viable path. He also accepts that he will not be able to survive alone. With firm resolve, he declares that he will be giving the commands from now on. He announces his intention to use everyone's strength to ensure they all survive together. Andrew seethes at the challenge. The protagonist identifies him as Scout Squad leader Andrew Gardner, who survives the longest alongside two others. He analyzes the toughest-looking soldier, concluding he must be some kind of bodyguard for Andrew. Andrew agrees to let him take command, but only if he can be defeated in a duel. He assesses Andrew's posture, discerning that he is well-trained but lacks practical experience, likely a rich lordling. He reconsiders, remembering that Andrew seemed too eager to get results to be someone just coasting on privilege. Andrew taunts him, calling him a loser who hopes to get paid despite never training. Deciding he cannot follow his orders, Andrew prepares to fight, declaring that he is different. Andrew screams that he has a mission to fulfill, but the protagonist dismisses him, saying he won't even need his sword. He rushes towards Andrew to begin the fight. He thinks that while he would normally struggle against someone this skilled, his opponent is looking down on him. He knows that such brash actions inevitably lead to carelessness. He dodges Andrew's telegraphed attack and lands a decisive counterstrike. Andrew grunts in pain, shocked by the powerful blow. The force of the blow sends spit flying from Andrew's mouth as he grits his teeth in agony. He stands over the defeated Andrew. The other squad members are shocked, unable to believe their leader was defeated in a single blow. He formally addresses the group, announcing that the squad is now under his command and asking if there are any issues. A soldier with a scar over his eye looks on grimly. On the ground, Andrew mutters a curse in defeat. One of the senior-looking soldiers nods in acceptance. The protagonist considers this the first step of his plan. Now united under his leadership, the squad advances into the grass. One of the soldiers wonders what this new leader is planning. The protagonist turns and asks Henry what his dream is. Henry is taken aback, confused as to why he is being asked. Henry admits he wants to marry a beauty who runs a flower shop and is told he'll need to survive to do that. Another soldier reveals his lover recently had a baby and is reminded he must make it out alive for his child. Two other soldiers share their dreams of saving money for a business and simply returning home. When asked, Andrew states that he intends to fulfill his mother's last wish. Andrew states that his dream and mission is to revive House Gardner. The protagonist tells them that all their responses are the same. To fulfill them, they need to survive. With a newfound determination, he declares that they will all make it out of here alive. The faces of the men show a new, shared determination. He knows he needs them to act proactively, believing there is no greater motivation than life itself. He anticipates the enemy's appearance and plans for the squad to break through their lines. He points and orders Henry to shoot an arrow at head height, though Henry protests there is nothing there. He sternly says he will not repeat himself again and orders him to shoot, and an arrow is loosed. The arrow finds its mark, felling a cloaked enemy soldier and revealing the ambush to the shocked squad. He immediately charges, yelling for Andrew to follow him. Though shocked, Andrew curses and follows the order. The goal is to fight with the upper hand. The squad charges into the disoriented enemy ranks. An enemy soldier cries out as he is cut down. His strategy was to turn the tables and ambush the ambushers. To gain the upper hand, they had to strike first. They moved through the tall grass to ambush their would-be ambushers. He leads the charge, his blade finding its mark and cutting down an enemy soldier in a swift, decisive blow. His strategy was clear: find the enemy first and turn their own ambush against them. The enemy is thrown into confusion by the sudden assault, with one soldier shouting the order to kill. Another is cut down before he can react. He presses the attack, knowing he must take advantage of the chaos to reduce their numbers. He targets Andrew, confident that his bodyguard will follow. This allows him to eliminate two key threats at once. His plan is working, and their chances of success are much higher. The enemy's numbers have been cut from 12 down to 8. The remaining soldiers are in a panic, crying out that it's an ambush and calling for help. The rest of the squad moves in, their expressions grim and determined as they prepare to eliminate the remaining enemies. He gives the final, chilling order to kill them all. His squad carries it out with ruthless efficiency. He reflects on his past failures, realizing that while the tall grass should have concealed them, something had given their position away every time. An enemy soldier curses as a large beast darts through the grass. It was this animal that had unwittingly led the enemy to them. The enemy's focus on hunting the beast made them careless. This created the very opening the protagonist needed to turn the tables. He confirms his theory that the enemy soldiers were chasing the beast. In his first life, they had discovered his squad purely by coincidence. This time, he used the enemy's fixation on the beast to launch his own successful ambush and decides he will not let the useful animal die so easily. His men declare victory over the fallen enemies. With the fight over, he orders the squad to move out immediately. The beast, its life spared, now watches him with a new understanding. He takes stock of their situation. They suffered one casualty, leaving 6 of them. He reflects that even after so many attempts, saving everyone was impossible, but this was the most successful run they have had. His knowledge from countless repetitions allows him to anticipate every enemy position. Knowing that 30 crossbowmen lie in wait on their current path, he confidently leads his squad on a detour to avoid the trap. He remembers the spearmen who persistently chased them every day. He knows they must be disposed of quickly, using hit-and-run ambushes to gradually escape the enemy's tightening encirclement. The squad is beginning to tire, with Andrew struggling to keep up. One soldier urges that they must escape before nightfall. But the protagonist leads them deeper into enemy territory. When his direction is questioned, he insists that this is the right way. He silences any further dissent with a firm command, stating he will not accept disagreements and that they must follow him. The others can only look on in confused silence. The former captain confronts him, telling him to act right. He states he has no plans to follow him to his death, but the protagonist retorts that it is too late to turn back now. The protagonist explains that the commotion they caused has already drawn the enemy to their retreat path. The former captain considers this, asking if following this new leader is now his only option for survival. The protagonist makes his motivation clear. He tells them that he wants to survive too. This resonates with one of the soldiers, who begins to reevaluate his initial impression of the man he once considered useless trash. The soldier initially compares their new leader to his own father, a man who gave up and wasted his family's wealth. But he quickly realizes this is wrong. The protagonist's determination reminds him more of Andrew, who is desperately fighting to save his own house from ruin. He recalls Andrew's motivation, a promise made to his dying mother. He was told to become a true leader, earn the trust of others, and rebuild their family. He is the type of person Andrew's mother spoke of, a man who paves the way. The protagonist looks at his squad and promises they will survive this place. Hearing this, the former captain finally puts his faith in him, declaring his trust. The former captain addresses him by name, Captain Incrid. When another soldier brings up Andrew, he firmly states that Incrid is their captain now. The former captain affirms that a squad follows the orders of its captain. Incrid instructs them to follow him quietly while crouching and to wait for his signal, and the squad complies, moving as one through the tall grass. Incrid reviews his plan. The first step was to seize the initiative and ambush the enemy, breaking the encirclement. Now they move on to the second step. The squad moves silently through the grass, following their new captain's lead as they approach their destination. He has led them to a critical point, a location he only discovered after dozens of failed attempts. The success of his plan hinges on being in this exact place at this exact time, as the sun begins to set. From this vantage point, they can allow the main enemy force to pass by. This allows them to avoid a direct confrontation. A large enemy patrol moves through the field, completely unaware of the squad hidden just feet away. While one of his men sweats nervously, Incrid remains perfectly calm. The squad holds its breath, remaining perfectly still as the enemy continues to file past their hiding spot. Everything has gone according to his plan. Now it is time for the final step. The sun finally sets and darkness falls. Incrid announces their arrival. The other soldiers are stunned by the revelation. The reason they always fail to escape the field is that the path to safety leads directly through the enemy's main camp. He explains the enemy's motive. The Aspen soldiers are killing everyone in the field to protect a secret hidden within their camp. It is something they cannot allow anyone to discover. The secret is a horrific one, gruesome totems made of bone and tattered cloth. This sight explains the enemy's desperation to keep it hidden. Incrid knows the enemy's priority is protecting their secret. He reasons that if something more important than catching them occurs, their focus will shift. With that, he gives the order to move. By creating a bigger problem for the enemy to deal with, a path for their own escape will surely appear. The squad moves out to execute the final phase of the plan. The soldier introduces himself as Mac. The squad leader, Incrid, sternly informs him that disobedience will not be tolerated. Mac curses under his breath, but Incrid silences him. Incrid continues to lead the way forward. Mac reflects that with the moon obscured by clouds, they are lost. In this situation, he realizes they have no choice but to trust their squad leader. Suddenly, Incrid rips through a tent wall. A soldier inside reacts in shock. His squad follows him inside, only to find it completely empty. The men are confused about how Incrid knows what's happening. Mac thinks his leader is being reckless, but he finds it odd that they haven't encountered anyone. He realizes that despite being deep within the enemy encampment, they haven't seen a single soldier. He wonders how it is possible. Incrid tells his squad to wait as he recalls his past experiences. He has infiltrated this camp dozens of times and remembers the first time he touched a particular flag. The act drew the entire base's attention and led to his death. He explains that the Aspen soldiers' main objective is to protect that very flag which they had intended to hide in the grass field. Mac understands the implication of setting the flag on fire and is stunned. He wonders how Incrid could have possibly known it was there. A commander recalls appointing the seemingly unknown Incrid to the squad. Incrid knows that with the flag threatened, the Aspen soldiers will be too distracted to pursue them. Mac deduces that this was all part of a secret mission. Incrid confirms they will use the ensuing chaos to escape. He divides the squad into two groups, one to act as bait and the other to start the fire. Mac volunteers to be part of the bait group. Incrid looks at him, seemingly surprised. Incrid notes Mac's sudden cooperation. He reflects that while he has attempted this infiltration many times, this is the most manpower he's ever had. He feels optimistic that this is the best today he's experienced so far. Confident, Incrid takes out a guard. However, Mac's group is quickly spotted and an alarm is raised. Guards rush to intercept the intruders. Incrid dashes towards his objective, determined to succeed. He reaches a burning brazier, ready to complete his mission and finally move on to tomorrow. Just as he grabs the brazier, an imposing enemy warrior appears behind him, ready to strike. The large warrior brings his weapon down with immense force. Incrid is caught completely off guard. He is shocked that he didn't hear the enemy's approach. He faces an enemy combatant he has never encountered in any of his previous attempts. The powerful foe wonders where Incrid came from, calling him a rat. Incrid realizes his support is late. The enemy stands confused. Suddenly, a massive fire erupts, and the camp soldiers cry out in alarm. The enemy soldiers spot more intruders. The enemy commander orders them to extinguish the fire first, confirming the plan worked. With the distraction underway, Incrid knows he just needs to escape. He focuses on his opponent, recalling that all attacks originate from the feet. He analyzes his opponent's movements, kicking off the ground to propel himself forward. He spots an opening. He hones in on the gap in his enemy's defense. He thrusts his blade towards the vulnerable point. His focus is absolute. His sword finds its mark. He successfully lands a blow. His opponent is staggered. The enemy grunts in pain. Internally, Incrid believes it was the most perfect stab he could have possibly managed. However, the warrior turns, barely injured, and dismisses the attack as weak. Incrid realizes with despair that he cannot defeat this man at his current skill level. He remembers the brutal journey to get to this point. He fought through ambushes in the fields. He endured countless deaths. He thought he had finally overcome all the challenges this today could offer. But now he faces this unexpected foe. He wonders if this man is the true final obstacle of the day. He knows that if he challenges him now, he will die. If he dies, he will have to restart the entire process, take control of the squad, escape the fields, and repeat countless todays. The thought of all those meaningless deaths weighs on him. The enemy questions why he is laughing. A determined grin spreads across Incrid's face as he declares that he is going to defeat him. Enraged, the warrior vows to cut Incrid up and feed him to the dogs. Incrid braces himself for the coming attack, ready for the final confrontation. With renewed determination, he resolves to overcome this final wall. With unwavering resolve, a lone warrior prepares to face an insurmountable challenge. He declares his intention to overcome the wall that stands in his way. The two warriors clash in a flurry of steel and sparks. A powerful blow is parried, the force of the impact resonating through the air. The enemy commander unleashes a surprising upward swing from a low stance. Their blades meet again with tremendous force, locking them in a fierce struggle. The warrior finds himself completely on the defensive, noting his opponent's fast and precise movements. He realizes the gap in their skills is immense, leaving him no opportunity to counterattack. The enemy continues his relentless assault, forcing his opponent back. In a shocking display of strength, the commander strikes the warrior's sword. The warrior is stunned that he was disarmed with just a backhand strike. With his opponent defenseless, the commander swiftly drives his blade through the warrior's chest. The fire set by the squad rages and spreads throughout the enemy camp. A soldier realizes someone poured oil to accelerate the blaze. The fire is now spreading towards their flag. A subordinate desperately calls out to his platoon commander. The soldier frantically reminds his commander of what is at stake. The commander seems more focused on his fallen opponent, acknowledging that he will not go down without a fight. The platoon commander looks down at the warrior and tells him that he will see him again. As the commander backs away, the warrior in his final moments is confused by his opponent's easy withdrawal. He questions whether this man was truly the wall he was meant to overcome. He concludes that even if that man wasn't the wall he needed to overcome today, he still needs to improve his skills. A squad member calls out to their squad leader. He urges him that they need to leave immediately. He turns and begins his retreat from the burning encampment. With his sword sheathed, he gives the official order for his squad to retreat. The squad flees the chaotic scene as a horn signals the alarm. While running, a soldier notes they've lost a man, leaving only 3, and wonders if the enemy will send a large pursuit party. Their leader thinks it's unlikely. The soldier who spoke begins to cough, clearly injured. Their fears are realized as an enemy pursuit party emerges from the woods. They are ordered not to let them get away. The squad is forced to fight off their pursuers as they continue to flee. The squad leader yells at his men not to hesitate and to keep running. One soldier suggests they can lose their pursuers by running towards the habitat of the field fox and snake, though another questions the danger. A third man declares he knows a safe hunter's path. The squad leader puts his trust in him and tells him to lead the way. They delve deeper into the woods. Soon, the sounds of the pursuit party fade away. A lone wolf watches them pass. A soldier remarks that thanks to Andrew and Mac's efforts, they were able to shake their pursuers easily. Another adds that if it were not for Henry's pathfinding, they wouldn't have lost them so quickly, acknowledging it took everyone's effort. As the squad continues their journey, the sun begins to rise, signaling a new day. They finally arrive back at their own camp, where their comrades are shocked by their battered appearance. One of the returning soldiers collapses from exhaustion. The squad leader reflects that another today has passed. A new day now shines on, he has survived. In the distance, the enemy's flag lies burnt and destroyed. Back at the enemy camp, a commander is briefed on the loss of the flag. He expresses his disappointment, stating that he didn't expect the famous Grey Dog Company to be stopped by a few intruders. He finds it hard to understand how a few enemy soldiers managed to break through his best troops, start a fire, and escape. The Grey Dog Company is described as an independent unit, with its own operational control. The company's name comes from a grey dog in the Principality of Aspen, known for its persistent temperament and its need to connect with any target it decides upon. This persistence applies whether the connection is in love or in war. Therefore, the Grey Dog Company is also known as the Persistent Lovers. The company commander asks his platoon commander, Mitch Hurrier, if the enemy he faced was strong. Mitch replies that if not for the fire, he would have finished him. The commander dismisses the escape as luck, but Mitch insists that luck is a skill in itself. He vows that it will not happen again. Elsewhere, the squad leader sits alone in a tent, tending to his gear. He reflects on his battle, bothered that he faced that wall but could not overcome it, and that he desired to keep fighting. He resolves that soon he will. Mitch Hurrier declares his intent to kill his opponent with his own hands. In parallel, the squad leader stares ahead with fierce determination, vowing that he will overcome Mitch as well. In a barracks, a muscular warrior named Ragnar lies on his bunk, bored. He wonders about his squad leader, who should have returned from his reconnaissance mission by now. He catches the object he was tossing in the air. Ragnar sits up on his bed, his large axe resting beside him. Ragnar grimly considers the possibility that his leader might have died. He muses that while the man had gotten better recently, his death wouldn't be surprising. Still, he admits that he actually liked him. He dismisses the thought, resigning himself to the lack of anything interesting to do. Nearby, another man with two-toned hair, Rem, awakens with a large yawn. The two men sit on their respective bunks. Rem asks Ragnar what he is looking at. Ragnar responds with a provocative gesture. A menacing grin spreads across Ragnar's face. He tells Rem that he suddenly feels the urge to kill him. Rem reacts with irritation, calling Ragnar a crazy person. The scene shifts to an elf-like woman questioning the squad leader, Ingrid. She finds it hard to believe he discovered an enemy ambush and burned their base down all by chance, but he insists he was just lucky. The elf woman eyes him skeptically, repeating the word lucky. She then dismisses him, telling him to go rest and recover. As Ingrid walks away, the woman reflects on his unexpected success. She wonders who this man truly is. Another soldier approaches Ingrid, addressing him as squad lead Ingrid, and noting that he can't figure out the woman's thinking. A soldier Ingrid rescued approaches him. He apologizes for his earlier behavior and thanks Ingrid for saving his life. He asks if they might meet again. Ingrid replies that they will if their paths cross. Ingrid watches as the man and his comrades walk away. He reflects that the man is alive thanks to him, and that he managed to bring back 4 of his squad members. Despite the rescue, Ingrid is filled with regret, questioning if he truly did his best. He laments that he lost 2 of his squad members. He believes that if he were just a little stronger, he could have saved them too. He resolves to use the repetition of today's to look past his limits and end his desperate struggling. He will strive towards his true goal of becoming a knight, using his today's as stepping stones to prevent repeating the same day over and over. With unwavering determination, Ingrid concludes that he needs to become stronger. The scene shifts back to the barracks where other soldiers shout about the crazy bastards at it again. Ragnar and Rem are locked in a fierce sparring match, their blows clashing with explosive force. The two warriors trade blows, their faces contorted with intense effort and aggression. Ingrid watches the fight from the sidelines. He reflects that although he has sparred with them countless times, he has never seen them with such fierce expressions. He observes that they are fighting like animals, not humans, and concludes that they never needed to get this serious when fighting against him. Ingrid tightens his fist, setting his priorities straight. He decides that first, he needs to make them direct that same ferocity towards their enemies. He swiftly intervenes, stopping the fight. Rem is surprised to see the squad leader and chides him for not reporting his return, asking why he was hiding like a cat. Ragnar yells at the onlookers to leave. Ingrid points out that Ragnar is hurt, but he brushes it off as a scratch. Ingrid tells Ragnar to wash up and rest. Rem tries to ask Ragnar about the attack he just blocked. Rem seems to have a question for Ingrid, but when asked, he dismisses it. Rem says it is nothing, but Ingrid senses that he had something more to say. Ingrid decides that Rem will say what is on his mind when he is ready. The scene flashes back to the battalion commander, who, upon learning of an enemy ambush, moved the entire battalion closer to the tall grass field. In a flashback, Ingrid reflects that his wounds healed significantly during the trip, as he constantly trained. Another soldier questions his constant training, suggesting he rest. Ingrid says he will just be gone for a bit. Ragnar scoffs that Ingrid will die if he keeps training while not fully healed. The scene transitions to Rem lying awake in his bunk, troubled by his thoughts. Rem notes that the squad leader is out training again. He gets up and stretches. He picks up his own sword. He reflects that he is good with a sword. He recalls that getting stronger was never difficult for him, and he had the chance to become a knight. However, he found the entire prospect boring. Seeing no reason to spend time and energy on becoming a knight, he lost his purpose. He came to a standstill in his life and now watches Incrid training outside. Incrid practices his sword swings. His movements are unrefined, and he fumbles, dropping his sword to the ground. Rem observes Incrid's poor form, thinking that his fundamentals are all wrong and need to be learned properly from the start. He believes it will be impossible for Incrid to get stronger with his current methods, but then he pauses. Despite the flawed technique, Rem sees Incrid's unwavering determination and wonders why he is pushing himself so hard. Rem approaches Incrid and asks him why he does all this. Exhausted, Incrid simply replies that it is because he wants to become stronger. Rem presses on, asking what he will do once he is stronger. Incrid declares he will become a knight. Rem scoffs at the idea, stating that a knight is just someone who fights well and questioning if that goal truly holds any meaning. Incrid explains that the knight he aspires to be is someone who decides for himself what is right and raises his sword for honor, for the sick and poor and for those he loves. Rem quietly contemplates Incrid's words about honor and merit. He closes his eyes and realizes that for Incrid, strength is merely a tool to achieve a greater purpose. This revelation forces Rem to question himself: what is a knight or a sword? He wonders what he truly wants. He concludes that he will not know the answer until he walks the path himself. Having found a new sense of direction, Rem calls out to his squad leader Incrid. As Incrid turns to face him, Rem makes an offer, asking if he wants to learn how to use the sword. A soldier calls out to his squad leader. Rem offers to teach Incrid how to properly use a sword. Incrid eagerly accepts the offer. After a moment of hesitation, Rem seems to second-guess his decision. Rem internally regrets his offer, feeling lazy. However, he is swayed by the determined look on Incrid's face. Rem finds the situation interesting. Rem begins the lesson by asking what Incrid already knows. Incrid mentions the heart of the beast and his stab. Rem instructs him to get rid of everything besides those two things. When Incrid asks if he must also abandon the Valen mercenary sword technique, Rem confirms that he must. He explains that old habits will prevent him from truly learning a new technique, rendering the effort useless. Rem gives Incrid a choice: start completely fresh or remain complacent. With unwavering resolve, Incrid chooses to start fresh. Rem is surprised by his student's conviction. Eager to begin, Incrid asks what he needs to do first. Rem marvels at his unusual dedication. Rem thinks Incrid isn't normal. He assesses his physique and suggests a longsword would suit him better, offering to swap weapons. Incrid questions if he should be handing over his sword so easily. Rem dismisses the concern and instructs Incrid on the proper grip. He asks why Incrid is clenching so tightly, and Incrid explains it's to avoid losing the sword, as he was taught. When asked who taught him that, Incrid says it was Rem, which irritates his instructor. Rem tells Incrid to get into position, then immediately strikes him with a training sword. The blow lands hard. Incrid grunts in pain, struggling to withstand the impact. Incrid complains that the strike hurt, and Rem replies that it was supposed to. He explains that if Incrid remains stiff, he will only break like a branch or a column. Incrid internally complains about his squad members' poor communication skills but tries to decipher the metaphor. He realizes Rem means he is too stiff from clenching the sword and needs his movements to be more malleable to avoid injury. Their training continues under the bright sun. As their weapons clash, Rem corrects Incrid, telling him to pay attention to his balance. Rem points out an issue with Incrid's foot placement. He strikes him again, noting he's still too stiff and asking if he wants to break his wrist. Exasperated, Rem asks Incrid if he was trying to dance. The grueling training session continues under the hot sun. Rem catches his breath and reflects on how bad Incrid's form is, thinking he lacks the basics. He concludes that his flaws may be unteachable, while Incrid also struggles to recover his stamina. Despite his exhaustion, Incrid pants heavily. He adjusts his grip on his sword. He lunges forward once more. With a stern expression, Rem simply tells him to go again. Incrid, though breathing heavily, prepares to continue. Rem decides to go back to the basics, telling Incrid they will take baby steps. Their training is interrupted by the arrival of Ragnar, who says he was wondering where they were. Ragnar approaches, asking if they are skipping meals to have a picnic. Addressing Rem as boss, He asks if Incrid is giving him a hard time and threateningly offers to cut his hands off. Noticing Ragnar is fully dressed for battle, Incrid asks if something is happening. Ragnar gravely informs him that they are being summoned. It is announced that enemy forces are gathering in the distance. The scene pans over a massive army preparing for war. As the soldiers stand in formation, Rem worries that teaching Incrid a new technique was a mistake. He fears that Incrid's lack of experience with it will get him killed. Rem resigns himself to the fact that Incrid is going to need some babysitting during the upcoming battle. Incrid, however, is disappointed that his training was interrupted. He looks toward the enemy line, questioning their odd formation marked by tattered flags. Incrid puzzles over the strange formation. A hooded enemy figure grins menacingly, declaring that this is the end. The battle begins in a blur of motion and chaos. The elven commander senses a spell just as a thick fog descends on the battlefield. Incrid realizes with alarm that the fog came out of nowhere. It is so dense he can't even see the person next to him. The sudden fog envelops the army, causing widespread confusion as the soldiers find themselves completely blind. Incrid remains alert, sensing imminent danger. Within the disorienting fog, the soldiers hear an unfamiliar noise. Panic begins to spread as they question what is happening. Incrid recognizes the sound and screams a desperate warning. He shouts that arrows are coming. A volley of arrows rains down from the sky, piercing through the fog and striking down the unsuspecting soldiers. The commander realizes this is no ordinary fog and that they have been caught in an unexpected trap. She shouts for her soldiers to take cover and raise their shields, knowing they have been had. The hooded mage laughs triumphantly. He gloats about the difficult and elaborate preparations required to cast his spell, which included animal offerings and constant rain spells. He explains that the spell's fog obscures all vision, except for those standing near the flags that serve as the casting point. This advantage, he declares, will lead to a one-sided battle. The mage calls his creation the fog of annihilation. His companion observes his satisfaction, and the mage agrees, admitting he barely managed to make it work, especially after a flag nearly burned down. The companion remarks that without that mishap, it would have been a cakewalk. The mage looks up, startled by the comment. The companion curses an unseen person, as Incrid struggles to defend himself amidst the deadly arrow storm. A cry of arrows rings out as a deadly volley flies through the fog. The squad leader twists through the air, narrowly avoiding the projectiles. A voice warns the squad leader to keep his head down. He identifies the voice as Rem's and understands he's trapped in a spell. Blinded and unable to locate his enemy, he is impaled. His breath strains and his body grows stiff. His legs refuse to move, and he laments being unable to use what Ragnar taught him. He hadn't expected to master it on the first try. He recalls Ragnar's warning that he would revert to old habits and should avoid fighting until his training was complete. But Ragnar also acknowledged that on the battlefield, one must fight to survive. The single thought on his mind is death. He moves through the fog, the sounds of clashing steel echoing around him. His squad mate calls out to him, and the squad leader, with newfound clarity, declares he has found a solution. Dodging and weaving, he closes in on an enemy soldier. He grunts as he stabs the enemy directly in the throat. With the enemy dispatched, he resolves to go back to learning from Ragnar. A dying soldier curses the squad leader before being cut down. In a flashback, Ragnar questions why someone fell, admitting he is not a great teacher. He explains that for a genius like himself, the fundamentals are so obvious they are hard to put into words. Rem, observing the training, wonders aloud if this is a case of understanding, but being unable to execute, frustratedly asking if swinging a sword downwards is truly that hard. Ragnar genuinely asks where his center of gravity should be, confirming he isn't making fun of his student. Rem is confused by the question about the center of gravity. As Ragnar demonstrates a stance, Rem concludes that geniuses often don't understand the mechanics behind their own actions. The squad leader reflects that while Ragnar's explanations are lacking, he can learn by observing and is determined to remember the stance, regardless of how many attempts it requires. The scene returns to the present battle, with arrows raining down. He realizes he is still too stiff as an arrow speeds towards him. He is fatally wounded, gritting his teeth in pain as he dies once again. A flashback shows the squad leader practicing his footwork. Rem compliments a step he just took, inquiring where he learned it. The student says that he should be able to start learning the basics now. Rem begins the lesson on the 3 basic attacks: cutting, stabbing, and slashing, and using the blade for defense. Rem explains that the shortest distance between 2 fighters is called the line of attack. He elaborates that swordsmanship is about blocking the opponent's line of attack while creating your own, telling his student to visualize his target. The squad leader practices his swings, applying the new concepts. Back on the battlefield, the squad leader feels his feet are light, allowing him to dodge easily. Despite his improvement, he is still hit by a volley of arrows. The narration states that little by little, his today is starting to change as a flashback shows him sparring with Ragnar. Ragnar is shocked after his student parries his attack, questioning how he tracked his sword. Each small bit of progress matters. During the training, Rem notes that the diagonal slash needs no more work. These small improvements add up, but in the present his squad mate thinks he's gone mad. He is focused on using each life to create steady progress. He pushes himself relentlessly, both in his past training and the current battle. The intense training session reaches its climax. Ragnar is left speechless by his student's performance. His eyes widen in disbelief at what he has just witnessed. Ragnar looks at his student with a mixture of shock and curiosity. He asks his student who he is, as the young man's identity is now a mystery even to his master. Back in the present, he reflects on how he once thought he couldn't improve any further with his talent. His squad mate calls out to him, confused and worried by his actions. His squad mate shouts at him to stop. He effortlessly deflects an incoming arrow. He has surpassed his previous level. He has reached his endmost goal. A determined smile spreads across his face. He fights through the pain, taking a brutal hit. He understands that the road to becoming a knight lies beyond this suffering. He finds the experience incredibly fun, bordering on madness. In a flashback, Rem asks his squad leader if he wants to learn the sword, a path he accepts if it will grant him strength. He affirms his decision, stating he will die as many times as it takes to grow stronger. A man is addressed as squad leader by an unseen figure. The superior asks if he wants to learn the sword, offering his tutelage. The squad leader's determination is clear. He will die as many times as necessary to become stronger. A squad mate, likely the same superior, expresses his disbelief that the squad leader could be so skilled. The instructor questions the squad leader's past performance, noting that his fundamentals are sound. He determines that what the squad leader truly lacks is experience. A memory of a past failure surfaces, showing arrows raining down on a battlefield. In a past life, Jack pushes forward, wanting to see how far his techniques will carry him. Despite his determination, he is struck down in the chaos of the misty battlefield by an enemy he cannot even see. Jack believes he can take down a few enemies, even if he can't see them clearly. An enemy soldier is shocked, wondering who is attacking them from the mist. Another soldier looks around but sees nobody there. Panic spreads through the enemy ranks as they are cut down by the unseen attacker. A memory of Ragnar's instruction surfaces, reminding him of the core principles: eyes, feet, and hands. Ragnar's voice echoes in his mind, telling him to predict, move, and finish the attack. Jack laughs manically, realizing how different it feels to fight with this newfound understanding. Jack marvels at how completely different fighting feels now that he has mastered the basics. He pushes forward, hungry for more. He finds himself surrounded by enemy crossbowmen. One of the soldiers acknowledges his impressive infiltration, but questions if he can possibly make it out alive. Jack challenges them to fight with swords. He wants to keep testing himself to push his boundaries. The enemy soldier is stunned by his audacity, calling him a crazy man. A volley of bolts pierces Jack's body. A mysterious voice declares that the foolish mortal has walked into his own grave. The voice continues, stating he must have lost his mind. Jack awakens in a bed, his eyes open. He sits up, completely bewildered by the voice that seemed to curse him out of nowhere. Rem interrupts his thoughts, asking why he's just spacing out. Jack recognizes the man standing before him. Jack's mind returns to the battlefield, realizing a spell had been cast. He recalls the enemy's strange formation, which seemed to be guarding a flag, much like in the grasslands. He asks Rem if he knows anything about spells. Rem is surprised by the sudden question, but Jack presses him for information. Rem agrees and begins by asking if Jack knows the difference between magic and spells. Jack guesses that magic is more common, a notion Rem doesn't disagree with. Rem clarifies that a spell requires a medium, and that the medium is incredibly important. Jack has a moment of realization, understanding that the medium is the key. He deduces that the fog was from an enemy spell, and the flag was its medium. Jack asks if Rem's tribe, from the western frontier where spells originated, also used them. Rem confirms he's seen them, adding that true spell casters are rare compared to hex casters. As Rem is talking, Jack gets up to leave, prompting Rem to ask where he is going. Jack simply states that he is going to train. Later, on a training ground, Ragnar notes that he and Jack seem to share the same training background. He asks Jack if he is familiar with the Oniak sword technique. Ragnar recounts the story of a child, born on a sword farm, who once killed 12 bandits with only a fireplace poker. Having lost his parents, the boy was taken in by a noble who heard rumors of his skill. That prodigy was known as Leonesis Oniak. However, Oniak's strength began to fade at age 10, and he became fully paralyzed by 12. Ragnar explains that at 20, though paralyzed, Leonesis immortalized himself in the history of swordsmanship by compiling and categorizing all the sword techniques in the land. This compilation became known as the Oniak sword technique. With this, Leonesis rewrote the history of the sword, making the Oniak family the greatest house in the empire, with a legacy that forms the foundation of all swordsmanship today. Ragnar explains the various branches of the technique, noting that his own style developed from the northern heavy sword. Jack questions the term conscience of the beast, which Ragnar corrects to heart of the beast, promising to teach him something more useful. The lesson is to concentrate on a single point, forgetting everything but his own sword and the enemy's. Ragnar announces he will demonstrate how it works. He executes a strike so fast that Jack is caught completely off guard. Jack is stunned, realizing the strike was faster than Rem's axe and that he had nearly died. He curses at Ragnar for the dangerous demonstration. Rem appears, angrily asking Ragnar if he is trying to kill the squad leader. Ragnar calmly states he is just helping him concentrate, but Rem furiously points out how long it took him to learn a similar technique without such reckless methods. Jack interjects, bluntly telling them that both of their teaching methods are terrible. Rem begins to insult Ragnar, calling his people from the far north barbaric. Ragnar retorts that Rem is from the southern barbarian tribes. As they bicker, Jack tells them to stop, reminding Rem of their departure order. Ragnar gives Jack one last piece of advice before he goes. He tells Jack to remember the alertness he feels moments before death, as that focus will allow his sword to do his bidding. Jack understands this new technique is similar to the heart of the beast, yet completely different. Jack reflects that while the heart of the beast numbs you to death, concentrating on a single point makes you more alert, and he needs more experience to recalibrate. His thoughts turn to the medium for the spell, the flag. Back on the battlefield, the enemy soldiers are in disarray, confused by the sudden fog. With a clear objective in mind, Jack declares that he is going to destroy the flag. He thinks to himself that with Rem and Ragnar, it will be easy to get to his target. He cuts down an enemy soldier as he begins his charge. He decides that first, he will try on his own. With grim determination, he resolves to keep fighting until he can't anymore. To survive the battlefield, he learned the heart of the beast. But now, he understands the lesson about concentrating on a single point. A blonde knight, noticing the change, asks Jack if he's been holding back. Jack denies it, explaining that it feels like he just had a moment of clarity. Though skeptical, the knight tells him to stay focused, as he'll have plenty of time to think about it later. Jack recalls a past life during the Battle of Adamat, where a dense fog covered the battlefield. The soldiers were thrown into chaos, unable to see the enemy, and frantically called for their shield bearers as they were cut down. Having repeated this day 10,000 times, Jack knows the battle intimately. He anticipates every move, knowing exactly what will happen next as he cuts through the fog-shrouded enemies. The enemy soldiers spot the one-armed warrior carving through their ranks. They rally together, shouting to take him down, and their combined assault overwhelms him. As a sword is pointed at his face, Jack is stunned that he was defeated without even seeing his attacker. His mind flashes to a memory of fighting a ferocious beast, a different kind of battle entirely. He remembers a massive, shadowy creature born from a flag, a detail he somehow missed in previous lives. He recalls it took him 10 years to reach this point before, but now he sees the flag destroyed, something that has never happened. With the flag gone, the magical fog dissipates. The enemy soldiers are confused by the spell's disappearance, but their confusion turns to terror as a new threat emerges, prompting urgent cries to get down and raise shields. A volley of arrows rains down on the battlefield. Jack is shocked, wondering why he couldn't foresee this attack like he did the last time. He realizes that the second dragon only appeared after the fog was cleared, changing the course of the battle he thought he knew. Jack recalls his past failures, realizing he'd been tricked by multiple fake flags. With only 2 more possibilities remaining, he is confident he knows where the real one is. Assuming the next flag is the real one, Jack charges forward. The enemy spots his advance and scrambles to form a defense, shouting for shields as a brilliant light erupts from their position. The blonde knight suddenly appears, urging Jack to follow him, declaring he can't let him die. But it's too late. Jack is struck down. The knight can only watch in horror as his comrade falls. Despite the fatal blow, Jack rises to his feet. He has been waiting for this moment, believing this is the final end for this body. He braces himself for the final confrontation. As his opponent's sword comes down, Jack parries it effortlessly. He feels as though God has answered his prayers. He declares to his foe that he doesn't need a sword to kill him. His own hands will be enough. Staring at Jack's unwavering gaze, the enemy soldier is taken aback by this sudden change. Confused by the warrior before him, he asks who he is. The man's expression shifts to one of recognition. He asks Jack if he's already forgotten him after only a few days, leaving Jack completely bewildered. Ignoring his wound, the cloaked man lunges forward, shouting that his opponent will remember him after this. The armored man reacts with surprising speed, twisting his body to evade the sudden attack. He dodges the blade with practiced agility, planting his feet to prepare a counter. The armored man unleashes a swift counterattack, catching the cloaked man completely by surprise. The armored man is shocked, wondering if this is the same person whose skills have now improved beyond comparison. His opponent grits his teeth, annoyed that he's being challenged with such a simple move. The armored man continues to gracefully evade each strike, flipping through the air to avoid the blade. As their swords clash, the armored man analyzes his opponent's movements, recognizing a solid and fundamental sword technique. He notes that it's mixed with a flowing style designed to deflect attacks, a combination that successfully parries another blow and frustrates his foe. The armored man narrows his focus, concentrating all his nerves on the opponent directly in front of him. He pours everything he has into this single moment, maintaining a delicate balance that could shatter with the slightest distraction. The world around them fades away. The flags, the outcome, and even the art of swordsmanship itself are forgotten. All that matters is the fight. As everything else disappears from their perception, only the sword remains, a singular point of focus. With intense concentration, the cloaked man brings his sword down. The powerful, decisive strike connects. The blow lands, and a look of sudden realization crosses the armored man's face. The cloaked man's blade pierces through his armor, delivering a fatal wound. Coughing up blood, the armored man gasps for air. With a final breath of clarity, he looks up and says that he remembers now. The cloaked man identifies his foe as Incrid, a squad leader from the Kingdom of Norilia. In turn, Incrid names him as Mitch Hurrier, lieutenant of the Grey Dog Unit. Mitch looks down at the dying Incrid and is puzzled to see him smiling. He asks him why he is smiling. Incrid calls Mitch a crazy bastard. Mitch realizes that what Incrid needed wasn't focus born from the fear of death, but the challenge of a worthy opponent. Ragnar seems distracted. His companion asks if he's giving up. A bearded warrior then announces that the meeting is over. The blonde man calls for Ragnar to go, but notices he seems more motivated than ever. Thinking Ragnar is a strange guy, the blonde man decides he'll push himself harder in training as well. Suddenly, the battlefield erupts in chaos. A blinding flash disorients the soldiers, and a commander screams for everyone to get down and raise their shields as a volley of arrows rains down. The bearded warrior yells for Rem to follow him in a charge. When the blonde warrior questions his sanity, the bearded man tells him to keep his eyes forward if he wants to avoid getting an arrow in his own head. The warriors charge through the chaos, cutting a bloody path through the enemy lines. Clearing the path just as he had done before, Ragnar finds himself face to face with Mitch Hurrier once again. Ragnar greets Mitch as a friend and challenges him to a fight. A surprised Mitch asks if he was being targeted. Ragnar cheekily confirms it was love at first sight. Mitch notes that his unit is known for being persistent, and it's the first time his prey has found him first. Looking down at the defeated Ragnar, he asks a question. He asks if he's disappointed. Mitch dismisses the notion and attacks again. Ragnar slips back into the focused state where only the sword is felt. Mitch stands over Ragnar again, questioning his reckless charge. Ragnar realizes his mistake. His mindset was wrong, and this state cannot be forced. To master the technique, one must naturally immerse themselves in the sword. Through repeated battles against Mitch, Ragnar begins to find that sensation again and again. He can see it again. After 28 attempts, he learns to deliberately enter the focus state at will. By the 48th time, Ragnar is in a different setting, sparring with his blonde companion. He offers to teach him the trick. His eye reflects the incoming attack. He effortlessly parries the blow. His companion is left stunned. He asks in disbelief if Ragnar really just deflected the attack with a single point of focus. Ragnar explains it was pure concentration, giving him complete control. His friend marvels at his immeasurable growth. When asked where he is going, Ragnar states he is off to meet the commander.